There. Yep, I think it's recording. Morning. No, it's sitting there. Sorry? No one's there. Sorry, go ahead. No, it's not. Yeah, I don't. Okay, great. I guess we could get started. Thank you for inviting us, and thank you for attending as well. Like I said, this is my first SQL Saturday. I wasn't aware that there's a lot of these like dedicated kind of data professionals and doing this on a weekend. And I would have been more surprised if the attendance like this on a Thanksgiving weekend, which is when it was originally being scheduled. But so for myself, so my name is Elmer Cecilio. I'm a senior solutions architect for Databricks. So I joined Databricks about July of 2021, so 2+ years. Prior to that, I was at a company called Talent, so we were doing like ETL data engineering. And then prior to that, much longer time, I was at IBM. But I've been kind of in the data space. Started my career at Canadian Tire in the mid-90s. So doing this for a while. So for Databricks, as a senior solution architect, I cover some verticals like in Fins, which are some of the local banks, insurance, and OMERS. Our host is also a customer. So without further ado, so just for our agenda, we're just going to go through a Databricks survey. So for folks that are not familiar with Databricks, then we're going to go through some of the core capabilities, and then I do have some demo using retail review response using LLM, and then I was planning to also probably do the LM RAG chatbot, but I'm not sure if I'm going to make it in time. So if we don't make it in time, I'm just here for the whole day if you guys want to see it, or if you just maybe at a later time for your company and whatever, we can do that separately. Can you hear me okay? Is it okay? Perfect. Thanks. And while she's here, so my partner in crime at Databricks, oh, I think you saw her at the front. Well, true.
My name is Shereen. I work specifically on our financial services team. Been at Databricks for a year, was at Snowflake before, so a lot of knowledge between the differences of the two. And I would say what we're really excited about here in Toronto with Databricks is just, again, the community. If you look, one of our most significant customers for Databricks in North America is TD Bank. And they're super public about their reference with Azure Databricks. So again, being on Microsoft, I would highly encourage you guys to take a look at the Databricks Data and AI Summit. There's a ton of recordings, and specifically, again, TD Bank, a great Canadian customer, like stands up on stage and kind of talks to their transformation with Azure Databricks. So if you guys ever want any customer stories or any information after this, you can visit us at our booth or add me on LinkedIn. Always happy to help. But thanks again for joining our session today.
Okay. Okay, so if you're not aware, Databricks is a company started off by folks from UC Berkeley. So they were in the academe, and the reason they got started was they're trying to compete with this Netflix competition on who can build like a best recommendation model. So that's kind of where they started. Hey, whatever we learned here, we can probably create some kind of product from it. And because of that, they've created really popular open source projects like Delta Lake, Apache Spark, and MLflow, right? And so the company's innovating, but it's not just taking those innovations just for pure profit, but they're sharing that with the community through open source. So the company pioneered the term data lakehouse, which is the the ability to combine data warehousing and the data lake, and being able to get the best of breed capabilities between those in a single platform. It's recognized as a leader in database management systems as well as data science. So you don't just look at, I know historically probably customers think of Databricks more on the data science piece, but based on kind of the recognition that we are also capable on the database management side.
And then the piece that Elmer just talked about on the Gartner recognized leader, the reason we make a point of saying that is typically with different cloud providers, you'll see there's different products in each category. With Databricks, you'll just see the Databricks name across database management as well as data science. And what will hopefully you'll get by the end of this is the real differentiator between Databricks and kind of like other tools and platforms out there is Databricks is fully stitched together, right? So when it comes to governance, security, again, we'll go through the platform slide. You're getting this all in one big platform without having to do the stitching yourself. So that's really the big value add that you're going to get from the Databricks.
So even though the company has grown and lots of revenue, it's still the same founders that are managing or leading the company as well. So they really are fully committed to kind of success and moving the company forward. So for some of our customers, Shireen mentioned like TD, for example, CPPIB, but there are others like CIBC is also a customer, some of the local insurance, and our host Omer's. So for organizations, they understand that in order for them to get a leg up on their competition, they have to be on the right side of this data and AI maturity curve. So typically they would probably just use, generate their reports and find out what's happened with the organization, but they want to go into this, automated decision making, prescriptive analytics, and so on. But in order for them to do that, they currently need to have two different data platforms. So there's a data warehouse that you use for all your BI reporting, and then you have like your data lake for doing your data science and machine learning, and now like Gen AI type workload to figure out what will happen. But the issue is that there's a lot of copying and there's a lot of duplicate data that happens. So traditionally, you would want to land your data in your data lake, and then from there, you would use that information to copy into your warehouse. Um, so your data lake would have your unstructured logs, images, videos, and files that data scientists can use, and then your data warehouse, you can use it for structured for your BI reporting. So there's disjointed and duplicate data silos. So as you copy your data into your data lake, then you make a copy for your reports on your data warehouse. And sometimes, there's how frequent those reports are being copied. You don't know which is the latest version. And then there's the governance aspect. Like if you have controls or security for certain tables, this particular group can only see this data, in a masked format. But you've done that on your structured tables, but are you also doing that on a data lake? Because again, there's a copy of that information. So it's confusing. You use like table ACLs or grant SQL selects on your warehouse tables, and then for governance, you use like, for example, service principals on your ADLS storage. And then each of those platforms only support certain use cases. So BI and SQL for the warehouse, but then if you want, but they're not good if you want to do data science and data streaming, right? So it's you have to maintain both to get the full scale of use case that an enterprise requires. So a data lakehouse takes a different approach. So the idea is that you store all your raw data in the cloud data lake. So Databricks supports the AWS, Azure, and GCP. So once you store all that data, you want a single platform to manage all that structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data. Being able to use a single governance to control and grant access to those particular objects, and then open it up for various use cases. Whether it's BI, data warehousing, data engineering, streaming, or data science. Sorry. I would, yes. Yeah, I think they'll probably send it out as well. Yeah, in general.
This concept of lake house, is this already something you guys are really familiar with already and have seen a lot of? Yes. Perfect.
So the Databricks Lakehouse is an implementation of that Lakehouse platform, right? And so like similarly, you store your data. So we support your, AWS, Google Cloud, Amazon S3s. It enables you for, BI, data warehouse, data engineering, streaming, and data science. Oh, sorry. Um, Being able to connect to external catalogs if you have like your meta stores in those like you're using like your Hive meta stores, and then being able to integrate it with external data sources as well. But underpinning the whole lakehouse is Unity Catalog. So Unity Catalog is that single governance layer. So it's not something you have to pay extra. It's all included and built in within Databricks, and it's that particular layer where you have the ability to grant access, do lineage, and manage both not just your structured and unstructured data as well.
Works. And then that way you can keep track of, again, all the way to Gen AI models. You can know that it's under the right controls, the right access, the right lineage that's collected. And so again, Elmer will go through this in some of the demo as well. But this does not replace enterprise catalogs, right? Like this is governing everything that's within Databricks and feeds into other enterprise catalogs like Libra or Purview, you name it.
Yeah, you mentioned Purview, for example. So yeah, so Unity Catalog will do the lineage and the access controls, and then you can leverage Purview as well as on the enterprise level. So Databricks core capabilities. So with Unity Catalog, like I said, it's not something you buy separately, like from a third party vendor to have enterprise cataloging on your lakehouse. But so with Unity Catalog, it allows you to do discovery. So being able to search for certain objects based on a particular search term, be able to do those access control that we were mentioning. So granting certain users access to those tables. And for example, if you're not part of that group, then you're just going to be seeing masked data, for example. So this particular table, only the finance team could see it in raw format, but for other groups, they're just going to see something else. So you can apply what we call those taggings in those tables to have like full control on those assets. Next thing you can do is lineage. So lineage is a hard thing to do. And, so people who's like work with enterprise catalogs, you would need to import the metadata of your source and targets. And then once you've imported that, then you're going to have to import the glue or what bridges them together, or whether they're code or they're like ETL tools and whatnot. So there's metadata that you have to import to be able to do that. And it's a crapshoot. Sometimes you get a nice lineage, sometimes you don't, especially if you're working, for example, like with hand coded scripts, and the how it parses that metadata is not always accurate. and whether it's going to pull all that information, whether it's going to pull the transformations and all that. So with Unity Catalog, as you use your your Databricks notebook, as you build like your bronze, silver, gold, as you move that along to your presentation layer, then you'll be able to see, it will capture that lineage for you, whether you're using SQL, Python, and then, Scala is also going to be supported. And that's why, as we capture that information, if, like I mentioned, if you have those enterprise catalogs, we have the ability to push those lineage information to those enterprise catalogs. So now you can see like an overall end-to-end, because Databricks can only see what's on the lakehouse, but there might be some other ETL tools they're using from third-party vendors that bring the data to the cloud. So now, but in your enterprise catalog, you wanted to see kind of that whole end-to-end. So that's kind of where that integration would happen. So being able to do monitoring. So this is not just data monitoring of, like how many nulls are there on my tables and whatnot, but we're also going to monitor like model drifts as well. So that's something that we've added, model monitoring, as well as monitoring for, the new, like the Gen AI stuff that's happening. I'll talk more about that as well. Being able to do auditing and then data sharing, and I have a slide for that. So we can govern your tables, files, models, notebooks, dashboards. And then one thing that we've added is something called Lakehouse Federation. So what Lakehouse Federation is, so it is what it says, so federation. So being able to federate those external sources and make them appear like Databricks tables. So under the covers, you define like a single connection to that particular database, and then we create what's called the catalogs. In this example here, we have a catalog called MySQL and Postgres. So from here, in your notebook, for example, I could be joining tables that are in MySQL and Postgres with my data that's on Databricks as well. And this is very powerful, especially for like we're working one of the banks, and they have this like huge Exadata data warehouse, and moving 20-year-old data warehouse to the cloud. It's not just like, okay, it's there, it's done in phases, but the data, as you move a certain application, there's going to be some dependencies that's still going to be left on the original data warehouse. So now, because of this capability, you can now join it with those data that's still not migrated yet, and being able to do your job. The other benefit of this as well, so you still have the same kind of access control on those tables, so you can grant certain users access to those databases, and they're also going to be visible on your lineage as well. So when I run my lineage, I'm going to see, oh, it came from this federated, MySQL or Postgres database as well. Good question. Well, no, because it requires Unity Catalog. So yeah. Okay. So the credentials that you define here would be typically like a service account. So it's like a single credential. So the way it would be done is you grant those analysts. So if they're connecting through Databricks, you grant the analyst the permission on those particular objects, not on the actual underlying database. And then you pretty much use dynamic views and order master. You can do that as well, yes. You can create those dynamic views based on those tables. Yeah. There's another question. Yes. So I'm part of cybersecurity conference. The integration data leaks. We have large products for security monitoring. We have centralized modeling architecture. Sure. So think QRadar, Splunk, XB, large products. Question is, what top 3 business problems does your product solve?
that your competitors like Datadog or Snowflake or others cannot?
That's yeah. So there's a lot of different use cases. So Databricks is a platform that can pretty much do either like your Gen AI. You can do your data engineering. You can use it for streaming. You can use it for analytics. Um,
We're looking at one of the most holistic platforms, and especially doing streaming and unstructured data, like that's the hard stuff, and that's where Databricks started. And if you look at our founders, again, we're like the open source founders. If you look at a Snowflake, their founders are ex-Oracle, so they're warehouse experts. Again, great data warehouse, would not speak ill of the competition either way. But you have one that started in the data warehouse space, specializing in structured data. One started from a different place, which is unstructured AI, ML, data engineering. You have to understand, I guess, back to your own organization, like what is important and what type of data you have, what type of use cases you have. But it's much easier for us to go across and also offer like data warehousing capabilities. But I think what's even more important is how you think of data strategy. For us, data strategy being in one open curated zone, where if you wanted to use a Snowflake and be interoperable, you actually have that ability. And if you wanted to walk away from the Databricks open source format, you can walk away. So for us, we really see us as being this open curation zone of data. Then as the customer, you really get to choose down your path, though we offer end-to-end all these workloads for you. So, and again, I highly recommend, look at the TD Bank, like the Data and AI Summit session, because they'll talk exactly on why they use Databricks as well, what business problems it solved, but it came around change management and like time to value and like speed of migration. A lot of Databricks employees are ex-Cloudera, ex-Hortonworks, so no one modernizes or migrates data faster than Databricks. What are their expertise?
yeah. The multi-cloud, your data is open. So you're using Databricks and you say, I don't want to use it tomorrow. Your data is still on your Azure storage in Parquet format, and your code is still on in open source like Python or SQL that you can leverage. Okay, so
As well, just to make Splunk more cost effective.
yeah, because you can't store too much on Splunk because it costs a lot of money. So they put it on data lake and then do machine learning on top of that security data. So I'll kind of just moving on. So, but quickly, that particular thing is that when we connect to the database, we don't just like do a select star from or that particular table. We leverage the where clause to filter out what we're going to bring back to that to this source. So this is the lineage. So you mentioned this already. So auto capturing the data lineage on your cluster or kind of SQL where. So you could just even be on your like a SQL editor, create table as select from one where you're doing some transformation into creating eventually a table that you're going to be used for your dashboards. It's going to capture that lineage for you automatically. So it's not something you kind of have to do anything separate or import or any of that. So I mentioned on the other slide the data sharing. So once you have like your particular data, typically you would want to share that information to either probably external groups or your partners, or it could also be internal depending on setup. But you now have the ability to basically just create a share, which is basically just a collection of objects. Think of it like a zip file. Here's like a bunch of tables that I want to share with you. And you create the recipient, you basically just an email, and then that person gets an email with a particular token. And really what that is they can use that particular information using their own tooling. As I'm a consumer now, I could be on my desktop using using pandas on my IDE. I could be using Power BI, Tableau, and you'll be able to retrieve the data that that provider is sharing. So you don't need to do create a CSV file, put it on an FTP server, make sure it's up to date every night, and then they would like download it. All you need to do is like, here's a share. Yeah, you can put like a timeout, for example, and then they can like retrieve that data whenever they want to. And what's the beauty of this as well is that you don't need a compute. So you don't need like a server running, because what happens is that those particular clients retrieve the data directly from storage. So yes, there would be egress charges, but there's nothing you can do about it. If you want to share the data, they have to pull it somewhere, and that's the case. But at least there's no compute. You don't have to build like an ETL pipeline to prepare that data, maintain like a separate server. And yeah, and lastly, again, it's not Databricks to Databricks. Like, we're not asking you to be on Databricks in order for you to be able to retrieve data. So that's a critical point. So data engineering. So you manage it now, so you have the ability to build your ETL pipelines. So one of the things that we've added is Delta Live tables, where you can kind of streamline, standardize your ETL process. So you build it the same way using Python or SQL, but what it would do is create like a DAG like this. So it will show you kind of in a diagram, how the data will flow. And as part of each of those particular tables, you can create what's called expectations or data quality rules. And those rules are really just like where clause or filters aggregation. And it will show you whether some rows were dropped. So for example, from the raw zone, I'm not going to put to the silver zone if this particular column doesn't has nulls, for example. So it would then drop. You have the ability to drop or continue, but really just inform you on what would happen, as well as the ability to put that into another table. Maybe you wanted to use it for reprocessing because, hey, correct this, there's some errors, send it back again. Okay, you had it. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of data,
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, exactly. So that's we're working with another bank. They have that similar use case as well. They do a lot of that analytics primarily right now in Anaconda, and then we're going to be using like Python scripts libraries, and then they're going to be surfacing that now into in as part of like project is into Databricks. So yes, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So there's a GitHub repo that we can share if you want to connect with me later. But there's a GitHub repo that would have like that metadata based ingestion. So it's just a matter of providing certain, I think, YAML files or JSON files, putting some parameters, and it would just do the ingestion for you. Here are the tables, here are the transformation. It will just read that dynamically and process and do that ETL frame. Yeah, so so Delta Live table is more performant, as well as like that metadata ingestion I was talking about, as well as being able to change it later on if you want to do streaming, right? As well, you can do so. And again, the expectations of having that consistent data quality kind of controls, and because if you're different developers may be kind of writing how you do data quality checks, for example, but here's like it's like a consistent way using that particular framework. So yeah, I'll reach out, and then we can send you that information. So you have those like workflows. Then so now you wanted to stitch all those together. So we have like this Databricks workflows. So you can call at least like this particular different task. So it could be some Python code, Databricks code, Spark, could be DBT. So you can have like an end-to-end flow from ingestion up to like model training as well, right? So that's something you can easily do, and kind of related to that question. So you can monitor, your jobs through, real-time monitoring. If something fails, like if you're doing ETL, so the extract worked, but the T failed, transforms, you can just rerun the T, for example. So that's data engineering. So data warehousing, I'll try to speed up. Yeah. So best price performance. So there's like some benchmarks and world record kind of holders and whatnot. But it is best price performance, especially like compared with some of the other kind of data warehouse as well. So it's built-in governance included with Unity Catalog, rich ecosystem with various like partners as well, and then being able to leverage now. And I'm going to show you in the demo on how you can, how SQL has evolved and leveraged, like, for example, LLM. One thing we've added as well is serverless compute. So if you're familiar with Databricks, when you bring up a SQL warehouse, you're creating one. So there's this option for serverless, the one in purple there. So serverless. So stepping back, when you spin up a cluster, it takes like minutes. And so if I'm a BI user, I want to run a query, like I don't want to wait minutes, like So here, basically you specify with serverless, it spins up in seconds. And the way it's done is that there's like pre-warmed clusters and Databricks account that we can like automatically provide to you to service your particular request. So it really is, really price performant and as compared to kind of the traditional way as well. Okay, so machine learning. So Databricks has been known, like I said, for data science. We were the one who created ML Flow, which is the de facto way of doing like ML ops. So it's like 13.5 million downloads a month. So that's a lot. So you can do create your models, track it, do the experimentations, figure out the hyperparameters, all the metrics that you have, and then promote it from stage into production, as well as into model serving as well. And one of the things we've added is GPU model serving. So if you have like your own GPU LLM that you want to host internally, then you can host that through Databricks machine learning as well. AutoML. So this is the ability to generate a bunch of models for you based on a particular like training data set. So what's different about kind of AutoML is that we're what we call a glass box approach. So as we take your code, like your training data set, say for example, a fraud, is this a fraud or not? We would then give you all these like we would try it out with different libraries, machine learning libraries, all the different parameters. So each of them would be like an experiment. So if you're tracking, for example, like an F1 score or some of those metrics, then you can say, oh, which of these runs give me the best score, and then you can take that particular notebook and it will give you like the code on how it was created. So now you can just go in, well, I want to tweak it. What if I change this and get it to probably that next level? But it really helps accelerate how you build your particular models because it's done a lot of that kind of work for you. So Databricks has been doing machine learning, and then like boom, ChatGPT kind of started. And so what we've done so this was April, oh no, March 24, is there a way for a customer to get close enough capabilities like a ChatGPT, but using some of the open source foundational models that are available, and training it, doing some fine tuning it with a few kind of like a question and answer type Q&A as a training data set. And that's basically what we've done. We've taken one of the open API LLMs, Luther, Pythia, 30 billion, I think, and use that to generate a DALI. And the idea is that, so this is not a product, but you can now take this particular LLM, host it internally, and get that similar kind of result. So if you have your own training data set, you wanted to fine tune a particular existing foundational model and make it your own, so that when you ask for a prompt, the response would be your own terminology, your own language. You can easily do so, with where it's not going to break the bank, where it's not going to cost you a lot of money, right? So that's the idea. And then what we've done is we've purchased a company called Mosaic, if you're not aware. So Mosaic has been very popular. They're creating these like MPT foundational models. But aside from building those open source models, they've also been helping a lot of customers as well, doing fine tuning and pre-training. So like some of the very big financial institutions, hey, Mosaic, you have like tons of GPUs. Here's our training data set. Can you generate me my own custom model? And there are those customers that are doing that. 15 minutes left. Okay, I'm good. Okay, I'll definitely speed up so I have time for more Q&A and some of the demo. So aside from those models, we realize, so Databricks has been doing like the data ops and then ML ops. Then there's like this new kind of like LLM ops. So, and in order to do that, in order to build your own model, there's no way around not, you have to still prepare and collect the data that you're going to use to fill or to use as input to your LLM model that you're building. Again, garbage in, garbage out, right? So once you've done that, you can then use existing model, build your own, and then once you've done that, then you can serve them all. So what are the products that are included? So we've added a vector search capability. So you can create like a vector index. So it's not a vector database, but you can store your embeddings and your documents. You can use some of those models, create a vector from it, put it into like a vector search. We're going to create the index. So if you're using it for like those RAG applications, then you can search from some of those similar documents, for example, and retrieve that. Feature serving is the ability to enhance, for example, your, maybe you have like your customer data that you would want to use as input to your models as well. Then, so we do leverage like feature serving. So curated AI models. So these are like open source models that we have that we optimize to run on Databricks. And what that means is that, so if you download, for example, Hugging Face, here's a model. And if it's one of those created models, if you do model serving, we've optimized that for performance, and which also means it's going to cost you less to run your particular LLM. AutoML for LLM training. So being able to use the same AutoML paradigm and fine tune your data. ML flow evaluation. So this is the ability to compare and evaluate various LLM models. So whether you're using ChatGPT or you're building your own, how do they compare? So you'd be able to kind of see side by side what those are. And then there's like metrics that are being captured as well. ML flow AI gateway. So this is the ability to control how you would access those AI. So one of the issues that we've heard is that, hey, there's this open API key. It's now shared with everybody in the organization. And it's like, so it's like, whoa, like its cost has gone up, whatever, right? So with the AI gateway, what it is, so you basically specify, you create what's called a route, and you specify kind of that information, how to connect to that, say, cloud, say OpenAI, for example, but then you have control on who's accessing, and you can limit the rates as well, so that if it exceeds certain amount, whatever, like you can like cut it off, whatever. And also because you're doing that, you're not then sharing that key to everybody, right? So once you've created those gateways, then you can serve it, optimize for like GPU serving. And then lakehouse monitoring is being able to monitor like the whole kind of ML, the whole flow, leveraging how your LLM is used, your model drifts and data are being monitored for data quality as well. Anyway, I'm speeding up. I wanted to get the demo. So these are, if you go to this particular website, or basically just say Databricks large language model guidance. So we change this particular page every so often, but we provide you with like the best open source Gen AI models. And if what's good about this page is if you click on one, hey, I want to try this, for code generation, code llama, for example, click on that. There's like a notebook associated with that you can like, hey, how do I access this particular model? And basically get you started. So LLM and RAG is something that's like really popular. So I kind of just put it on a page so that if you want to know more about it, how Databricks does it, you can just click on this page once the presentation is shared. Databricks Marketplace. So there's a lot of like different providers that share their data within Databricks. So you can like go to the marketplace. I'll try to show you that to you as well. Solution accelerators, being able to get started with Databricks. So there's a link to that as well. Okay, let's try to do this. So there's like a retail use case that we have, primarily dealing with. So there's like a product, and then you have like people create these like unstructured reviews of that information. But the issue is that there's all those customer reviews are stored like in kind of in different formats, and then stored like in like a storage layer. But those are unstructured raw text, and reviews remain in their raw form because there's no easy, consistent way to classify them, those particular that particular data. So what happens is that there might be users that are looking for some of those reviews. Oh, I should respond to this particular person and whatnot. So it's a little more like manual, error prone, inconsistent. So analysts cannot easily derive actionable insights from the data, and then the data scientists cannot derive meaningful features. So this raw data is untapped, leading to missed opportunities, like you were being proactive to kind of respond to to those particular reviews. So the fix is that we're going to leverage the AI, the LLM, to tell us what the sentiments are and whether we need to follow up with that particular customer that generated that review, and then create some kind of a starting point and a response. So that information will then go to enrich data, and then be available for reporting by all these particular users. So again, our text, we're going to use Databricks SQL with Azure OpenAI. We're going to retrieve using again the LLM to retrieve some of the entities, entity type, whether follow-up is required, and the follow-up reason. And then from there, we're going to use that information to generate a response. Oh, so we're basically, well, you'll see it. You're basically using LLM to parse out the yeah, yeah. So here's so I'll go through it first. So this is our first notebook. So if you're not familiar, right? So with Databricks, so I'm logged in with Databricks. So we're kind of like on workspace where I have like these particular notebooks. Anyway, so for this particular notebook, I'm just doing some kind of reset. And we're actually, for this particular demo, what we've done is we've added this new API called AI generate text. And what it is that you put in a prompt and then your credentials, for example, on how it would connect to Azure OpenAI. So in my example, generate a short review for the iPhone 15 Pro Max. And then so what it did was it, provided me with the result, right? Like that, hey, I'm very happy with, that particular kind of product, whatever. So then what we've done is we've created a wrapper because the user wouldn't know, like, oh, I don't need to know how to pass all these parameters. So we basically just created a wrapper. I just called a function called Ask ChatGPT, and to pass in the prompt, and then here are the credentials to connect to that OpenAI. So now if I ask the function, I just plug in the text that I want, the prompt, and it will give me the result, right? So now what we're gonna do is ask that OpenAI to generate a sample data set where we're basically saying, like, in 2 rows, and I want like a date with random dates, review ID, random ID, and so on. And I want the response to be given in JSON format. And this is like the structure. So when I run this is like an example of what it did. So it provided me kind of with random dates, numbers, and kind of the review as well, and again in JSON format. So what we're doing next is we're converting those results. So now we're going to creating a function doing that, and we're going to get the data. So we now have like a table called fake reviews that would have kind of this information. So we basically parse out that JSON and put it into like a data frame. And now we're saving that data frame into another table, and we call that table fake reviews. And then we're going to use the same idea to generate some users. Again, telling OpenAI generate me a sample, customer list, and then it created me this table, and I call it, fake customers table. So this is just generating the data. So now, how do I bring them both together? So the idea now is, so this is our data that, the fake customers join with, the reviews. So just put it together. And next is that 5 minutes left. Okay. So we're gonna use this annotate. So this is like your question. So basically, it really depends on the prompt. So for example, in my particular prompt, so a customer left a review, we follow up with anyone. So classify sentiment as positive, neutral, negative, returns whether follow-up is required, and explain what the main reason is for their particular review. And so return JSON only, and then this would be the structure. Right. So now if I kind of run that annotate review function, and basically it would kind of show me that, so it would give me like this annotated review. So it basically parsed out the product name, whether it's the sentiment is negative, and the follow-up reason, right? So now what we're doing is we're gonna try and put all that into a table so we can leverage that, right? So now we have like your customers, the product name, the entity, whether it's negative, whether a follow-up is required, and a follow-up reason. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use, again, our OpenAI to generate response. So the prompt is our customer named, and then the name, who ordered a particular product based on that entity that was parsed out, and basically say they're unhappy due to a reason, provide an empathic message I can send to a customer, including an offer to call the product manager. Anyway, so I put in my prompt to generate a response. So I put in my name and then the product, because I still have not received my iPhone 15 order. That's why I put it in. But anyway, so it's so it's like, dear Elmer, so this is the response. How frustrating it can be, wait for your order. If I get this email, if it's wait, like I'll probably, yeah, okay, thank you. I'll wait. So And then, so what we're doing now is, so that was an example. So we're basically creating a table called reviews answer and taking that whole kind of, kind of review and creating a table. Sorry, where am I? So I basically have like a kind of the response, right? Like so we will have the response. So for John, like we are sorry for the to hear that you were so this is basically what you can then email to that particular customer. So again, we use OpenAI, generate our fake data, fake review, and use OpenAI to annotate the data, parse out the relevant information, and then get the response. And just some examples as we are here is that um, you can also ask, for example, does this review discuss cereal? And then is it a true or false? And then it would go through those particular reviews and give me that result. So you can, use this as part of like your SQL instead of trying to figure out, what specific item. And this just, I just found it funny. Summarize the review in the words of the Twitter generation, and then it put in some of these like emojis, and actually there's like a hashtags as well that it added. So I kind of just found it funny. Okay, one last thing is that all those. So I was using a notebook. So all these like particular functions are also available if you're on the kind of SQL persona. You're like a SQL editor. Also, another one is that we also have. So I was showing you the Ask Generate Text. So Databricks also has another one called AI Query. And it's similar in function, but the main difference is that I'm using the AI query is using a model that's being served locally, which is this one. So you can take say a llama model, host it within Databricks, and then it would create you an endpoint, and that particular information can be used as part of your query as well. So what's different about this, right? This is all in you fine tune it, you pretrain, you this is a custom model that you may have created that you're hosting, and now it's like available for everybody to use. Sure. Oh, so for that particular one, so those ones, right? So when you it's through a key. So I'm connecting to the open source to the one on the cloud. Oh no, sorry. Yeah. So I'm using the keys, right? So yeah. They're just an OpenAI endpoint. But the other one is a model served locally within Databricks, and also before they kick me out. So, if you go to Marketplace, this is something that we have, right? So there's a lot of like, this is like the different data providers. So there's like data sets, solution accelerators, and models. So if you go to model, Llama 2 is here. All I need to do is basically just, download and access that. What's going to happen is that you could then view that in the, sorry, I'll come. It's going to be stored in Unity catalog, and that particular model. If I go models here, I can serve this particular model. So download from Marketplace, have it locally. So all these like different created models are going to be available, and then you can easily like serve it and then use it for query. Like just yes, I'm using ChatGPT because that was I was following a demo. I haven't had time to kind of for the local version.
you're saying that like the service model actually, the feeling that is, right, yes.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it would be on that particular workspaces. Yeah, absolutely. So you can do that, yeah, retrain it, do the fine tuning, and then you can we'll have a different version of that model, right? And then you can also serve it kind of similar to what I showed you. Okay, well, thank you so much.